Good morning, YouTube. So, I'm a truck driver, and I'm kind of new at the truck driving thing, and I spent 25 years as a cop in a medium-sized city. The last half of my career was spent investigating crimes. I investigated everything from a $10 theft to a quadruple murder, and pretty much everything else in the middle that you can think of. This is actually my second attempt at making a video. I want to give you my perspective on basically life. As you can see, my perspective on where I'm driving. Right now I'm about 126 miles west of Little Rock, Arkansas. You know, my first video that I made, I just didn't like it. I was kind of unprepared and really didn't know what to say, and it was really just kind of an introduction video, and I think I've decided to not post it. It was basically me giving you the rundown of me. I'm trying to do these unedited, because I want to give you guys more of a real life experience. But anyway, so I woke up to some news today that was posted one of my friends posted on social media. It was about a deputy in Harris County, Texas, by the name of Jennifer Chavez. She was a constable deputy, and she died in the line of duty. She was killed by a drunk driver that she was responding to reports of in an attempt to, get him under control before this exact thing happened. I don't know why this kind of stuff does not make national news. You have one famous person slapping another famous person on the stage of the Oscars, and that gets talked about for, it'll probably be talked about for the next month or two. People bringing it up, now, people are, I don't see many people trying to defend what happened, but then you have this deputy who leaves behind family that was killed in the line of duty, and it's barely a blurb on some local stations. Okay? I don't understand it. Now granted, I know that there are lots of people out there that die doing their jobs. There are soldiers that go to war. There are police officers, firefighters, ambulance crews, doctors, nurses, teachers, that die somehow at their job. Most people, though, they're not dying as a result of doing their job. This hero went there probably without even questioning what she was doing. She went to do her job, put herself out there, and she died. The drunk driver ultimately hit her. Her car burst into flames, and she died at the scene. And like I said, it's barely a blurb in the local news. I just don't get it. It's almost like it's almost like the Hunger Games, I guess, where the celebrities are running society. I guess if that's what the Hunger Games is really about. To be honest with you, I've watched 2 of them and never read the books, and I was slightly entertained by the movies. But anyway, we lift all these people up who they are there for entertainment, but like anybody who's there for protection, whether it be, a soldier, a cop, a doctor, a nurse, or whatever, those barely make the blur. Those barely make blurbs on the local news. It's just kind of my rant for today is I'm just, driving through Arkansas. I just don't get it. My intention isn't necessarily to complain about it, but it's to put it out there nationally because, I feel that these things do need to get reported nationally. I'm of the opinion that if some of our biggest critics, and when I say our, I mean the law enforcement world, that if some of our biggest critics were to follow a cop around to see what they do for a few days, a week, just to see what we do. And I get it. There are some cops out there, and there are some areas of the country where there's just not much going on. But where I'm from, I'll even throw myself out there. If somebody were to follow me around for a week when I was a cop, I think they would get a little bit better respect of what we actually do for the week. And it's day in and day out. I've gone to the hospitals to investigate shootings where the victim who survived their gunshot wounds are uncooperative and they don't want their case investigated. Some even get mad at me and act like I'm bothering them just because I tell them, hey, the hospital has to report this, and I just want to know if you want to file a report. I don't hold it against people when they don't want to. It's their life. They can do with it what they want. But literally people have gotten angry with me because I'm trying to investigate their shooting, or at least get the preliminary information to investigate their shooting. I've had family members get mad at me because I'm investigating their family member's murder. The family always knows, or at least most of the time, knows more than what they're telling us. If it's a family that's not cooperating with the investigation anyway. And I've literally had family members tell me that they were harassing them because I'm begging them to just tell me what happened to their child, their cousin, their father, their sister, their brother, their mother. But people don't want to. I literally had somebody tell me in the same breath one time that they don't cooperate with police because the police don't do anything about it. I called them out on that. I said, well, how do you expect us to do anything about it if you don't give us the information? Okay, we're not magicians, we're not fortune tellers, we're not mind readers. Everything takes information. Every aspect of our job takes some sort of information. Okay, that information can be built by us, as an independent investigation, but most of the time it needs to come from the victims and the witnesses, and the victims' family members. Just this one case I'm kind of referring to. Literally, if this lady would have told me who her grandson walked outside to meet, I could have locked his murderer up. I could have requested the courts to charge him with murder. That's all she needed to do, because she was home and she knew who he went outside to meet. I knew. I just need something to corroborate it. My investigation, can't just be the things that I know. I have to have corroboration to so the person can be charged and ultimately tried for the crime that they committed. But this lady literally called me a racist and said that I was bothering her. Now, mind you, I had not seen my family in 3 or 4 days at that point because I was out there trying to gather the information needed to lock up the person who killed her grandson. 4 days I went without seeing my family. Okay? I get it. People may not like the police. I get it that people may not respect the police. I understand it. But for God's sakes, it was her grandson. You know? And she knew that I knew who he went outside to meet. But she just wouldn't confirm it. You know, she was sitting in the living room with him when he got up to go outside to meet this person and got shot and murdered. I just don't get it. But anyway, so I've got a couple of rants off my shoulders now. I'm a little bit more comfortable than I was yesterday when I tried to make my first video. I was actually kind of nervous and really was not a good video at all. You know, I mean, had some really good views, that's for sure. I was driving through rural Oklahoma, just to the west of Tulsa, and it was really pretty where I was at. And right now I'm driving through probably some of my favorite part of the country that I regularly drive to, which is through the mountains of Arkansas. You know, if anybody lives around here, or you're driving down a highway that's kind of close, take an hour, go tour the Ozark Mountains. Just drive through just drive down the highways and the roads, and you know, alter your trip a little bit. It's worth it. But anyway, so my intention on creating a YouTube channel is to give you my perspective, or I guess my 2 cents on things that has to do with the things that I do and the things that I've done. You know, to give you my perspective on current events or past recent events, because I was one of these cops that I didn't take things personal. It was a job to me, and the job wasn't to see how many people I could put in jail. You know, my job was to investigate cases and reports that were assigned to me and try and gather the information needed to make a decision whether or not the case should be prosecuted. You know, it wasn't my job to decide if somebody's guilty or innocent. You know, it's my job to gather, it was my job to gather information, and to be quite frank, I didn't care who the information supported. You know, there were some times that information I would gather would support the suspect or the defendant in the cases. You know, it's just the way it is. And, it's not my job to try and hide that information, even though I do know that, or I do suspect anyway, that happens. It's clear because it's events of that have been in the news. I've never witnessed anything like that, nor do I have any personal knowledge of anybody doing things like that. But I'm aware that it does happen, and people get this us versus them mentality, and they know that somebody may deserve to be in jail, and they just try too hard. I always tell the new detectives, or I always told the new detectives that I would train to don't try to force things to happen that aren't happening. You know, if it's not there, it's not there. You'll get them the next time. You know, just like the person who killed the grandson I was talking about. I couldn't get him on that one. I know he did it. Everybody knows he did it. I mean, that's just, I mean, I've heard from very credible sources that they knew what happened, you know, because they were a part of this victim's life, but unfortunately they weren't there, and they were unable to corroborate the information they were giving me, so we couldn't use it. But in any case, the suspect in that actually ended up trying to kill somebody else. You know, fortunately, this victim lived, and that suspect that ultimately was sentenced to a number of years in prison for that crime. And, you know, I really hope that this guy, when he gets out of prison, decides to do the right things, you know, decides to try to be a productive member of society. But if he doesn't, you know, that's on him, and any law enforcement, you know, that they're just going to have to investigate him should he choose to continue his life in crime. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, some of my videos I will talk about. I don't remember if I said any of this. I just kind of got on a rambling. Just got on a ramble for a little bit there for a minute. But anyway, you know, like I said, I'll give you my perspective on, you know, current events, recent events. But I'll also talk about trucking, and you know, if that interests people, you know, and maybe I'll do a little bit of both in all my videos. You know, as far as trucking goes, it's a tough job for the money that they pay. I have been pretty much on the go all week this week. Just to give you some perspective, there were nights that I shut down at 7 p.m. and I was up at 5 a.m. the next morning, getting everything ready to go to make it to my next delivery. I drop off my delivery and then get on to the next pickup and get as many miles in as I can get before my time to drive runs out and before I shut down for the night. And it's pretty much a constant hustle and bustle just like that. There's a saying in trucking that if the wheels aren't turning, you aren't earning. This truck that I'm about to pass is actually a really good company. You know, I like them. But their trucks are actually governed, and right now we're climbing a hill. I'm doing 65 in a 75 mile an hour zone, passing him no problem, because my load is a lot lighter than his load, and he also is governed and can't drive the 70 miles per hour that I can drive. But anyway, you know, I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off for now, and just wanted to kind of put that video out there of, you know, just kind of wanted to get Deputy Chavez's name out there, and ultimately I would like for her name to be spread across the country, and I know that likely it would. I mean, there's all the social media and different law enforcement groups that post people's that post these kinds of things, and they do get passed around, but it's just a shame that, it's not on the national news. I don't know. It's really just a shame. But anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed at least the scenery. Maybe next time I'll try to post a video that actually has a lot more of the mountains to look at. Where I'm at right now, they're kind of tree lined, but when you crest some of these hills, you get a really good view. In fact, I think I'm gonna stay on just for a few more seconds while I crest this hill to see if there's anything for you guys and girls and people to look at. Yep, it's looking like there might be a little bit of a view. It's a little bit of a view, but some of these, I think the mountains through the Ozarks is called the Boston Mountains, and they're really pretty, especially along I-49. Right now I'm on I-40. I-49 runs north and south through like Fayetteville, Arkansas, and all that, and that is really pretty out there. Highly recommended for anybody who happens to be on a road trip even remotely close to this. But until next time, I hope to see people, and if you like these videos, don't forget to press that like button, and hopefully I get some subscribers. Hopefully I'm interesting enough for that, and I do promise you guys I do have some stories to tell. I've done a lot of investigations in my time, and I just wanted to be able to tell my stories to a little bit more people than what I know in person. But anyway, until next time, have a good day and be safe.